Well, if there's one thing that'll test whether or not you're afraid of what's going on in Russia, it's how you feel when things start blowing up. Because that's what happened today. And it's got a lot of people changing their idea of how afraid they are. So how does this impact the markets? Well, we're going to do a quick take today. And honestly, that really depends on what you're invested in. So just starting off in the NASDAQ, I mean, this looks bad. Okay? I mean, this looks pretty bad. First of all, we're on the daily chart here, all right? And you can see that when we started rolling over, we got a bounce. And the bounce was denied at the 200. Okay. And it came down and it recharged, and then it came up and tested it again and failed. And now it's rolling back over. This is bad. It's also bad because if you notice right here, this is on the daily chart, but you're getting a death cross. All right? That's when the 50 falls under the 200. So just to give you an example, if you look historically at what has happened in the past with the death cross, well, look right here. Death cross, major crash. Now, you may actually notice here that the crash started happening before the death cross, but that's because the delta between the 50 and the 200 was so great that it did act as a lagging indicator. But nonetheless, it did still happen, okay? Because you can go back even further and see when there was less of a delta, like here, when you got that cross. I mean, you still got a major sell-off, okay? And you notice that there is no cross without a sell-off. I mean, when there's a cross, there's a sell-off, all right? So you go back to the start of this trend. I mean, look at this. Even back here, even in 2011, let's see how much this was. And yeah, that was 19%. I mean, so look, it doesn't look good. And by the way, you can also see this trend, and this trend gets touched after a death cross. All right, and look where we are. I mean, even if it fell in a straight line, and it probably wouldn't. I mean, that's 30%, right? It would probably zigzag and work its way, but you know, you're still looking at up to maybe another 25-26% downside from here, right? So this death cross is certainly ominous for the tech sector. At bare minimum, that does not look good. And you know, you can see, I mean, there are places where it could find support along the way. I mean, I see a couple right here. So I see this one, right? That's a good place for support, right about 12,000. You could see some maybe right here. This looks pretty good. Actually, if it were to stop here, that might be kind of bullish, because in that point you might be getting a double bottom. I mean, that's possible. I mean, it's there. You just have to see how it develops and where we go next. So the next place, we just need to see if we're going to set a new low or not, right? So do we stop here or do we set a new low? Well, if we set a new low, I think it's a pretty good idea where we're going. It'll probably be at least 12,000, and overall that would give us a sell-off of 25%. So that's not unreasonable, but this sector looks pretty bad. Now platinum looks amazing. I mean, I love platinum, and you can see that. Let's go on the weekly. Yeah, so you can see that after we broke out of this long-term descending wedge, we have come back, and that's what we're doing right now. Is we're retesting that breakout. We're retesting these trend lines. And look at this. This is a double bottom too, right? This is the same pattern right here, clear as day. Boom. Right? So this would be a measured move. We could easily say, all right, we're looking at, what is that, $175, say 180. 175 would put us right back to where we were, to the tick. So looking at a measured move of 1270, you know, which it's really telling us it's going to come back up here to the prior resistance where it had trouble. So very bullish there. Looks really good. Sebayne Stillwater looks good too. Yeah, pulling up that chart here. Yeah, that just looks good. It's following platinum, you know, like it should be, but it looks good. In fact, it looks like it's putting in the same potential pattern here, so it's worth watching. I mean, you see it wants to break out. I mean, look at this volume. I mean, look at it. Yeah. So, looks good. Platinum looks good. How can you not love gold right now? I mean, I just don't understand it. $1,900 we're testing. Which, by the way, that's the spot to beat right now, because it's nice to be breaking out of this wedge, right? That's good. But I think part of this might be a bit of a war premium, which is logical because really the next big catalyst for gold was going to be the Fed hiking rates. But now we have all this Russia stuff going on, and it's kind of giving it an advance a bit early. And plus, if you look at the volume, it would be nice to see something up here. You know, it'd be nice to see some more of these breakout level volumes. But it's still just a little above average, average-ish. And for a breakout, that's not what you want to see. So I'm actually willing to bet that for whatever reason or whatever narrative, this ends up coming back a little bit. Maybe it even retests this level here on the trend before turning around and really breaking out. Either way, it doesn't really matter, because once you get above 1900 and you get a close above 1900 and you sit there, that's it. I mean, you may as well, I mean, you better start buying gold equities as fast as you can, because the ship's about to leave, right? Because once you get over 1900, I mean, we're not coming back. I mean, just look at stocks like Yamana Gold. Love this company. I bought a lot of options in here. And it's working out real nice. So you're getting the break and you're getting the volume. I mean, this is exactly what you want to see. We've got a long way to go in this stock too, but the sector as a whole looks very good. Now, I do have to say though, because a lot of juniors and mid tiers did have bad days. They had, you know, selling off 5-6%. And this is, I think what this is telling us is that there is a lot of fear in the market because of this Russia stuff. And then you have Monday, which is a holiday. The market's going to be closed. So anytime you see things selling off just across the board like they are right now, even when you know, the gold sector and the gold equities have every reason to be bullish and to be up big, it's telling you that there's fear, and the market's getting ready for a major sell-off. And while any kind of a major crash would take gold, silver equities down with them, they're going to be the first to bounce, and they're going to bounce the most, especially if you get into an official bear market. These stocks will diverge from the broad indices, and it won't matter anymore. So in the short term, you know, major volatile moves will affect everything, but in the medium to long term, those things will start to distinguish themselves for their own fundamental value. Uranium is another example of that. Uranium had a pretty good down day, but the volume was very light. So you have fear, people are getting scared, and they're kind of being shaken out. But until we break our major trends, we don't really care, okay? Because the trend is our friend, and the sector is as bullish as it could possibly be. So anytime we get to test these major supports and trends, I mean, these are buying opportunities to me, because any immediate risk to the downside for a crash will be short-lived, and the recovery should be spectacular. So I'm still super bullish on it. As long as we don't break major key levels, I'm a buyer at all of these places. And again, it'll behave just like gold and silver eventually will, which is to say that, yeah, volatility to the downside will affect everyone in a big crash type scenario, but even in a bear market, these things will diverge, and over time, you know, uranium will behave independent of the broad indices and will be very, very bullish. I haven't talked about Bitcoin yet, so I'm going to do that now. So Bitcoin has a long way to go down, and I've been trying to tell people this. Actually, I had a guy I was talking to right here, I think it was, okay, and he was actually over, and he was saying, yeah man, I want to buy some Bitcoin and some Solara and all this stuff. And I said, look buddy, I've made a lot of money trading crypto too, okay, it's like I get it, trust me, but you don't want to buy it right now. And he said, well, I've read everything that says, if you want it, just buy it, because as long as you hold on to it, then it's going to go up. It's like, yes. Look man, even if that's true, you still just don't want to guess where you're going to buy this stuff, because look at where it was at the time when I was talking to him. I said, look, this could be, and that's why I said could be, because it was still here, it hasn't confirmed it yet. I said this could be forming a head and shoulders, buddy, and it's going to come down and retest that neckline, and if it breaks, it's game over. And not only did it break, it was textbooked, because it came back up and it retested it. All right, it gave you the retest, all right, which is a blessing. I don't think people understand how nice it is to see it come back and give you a retest, because that confirms without a shadow of a doubt that this thing is about to tank. And that's exactly what it did. So this is actually an amazing chart right here. I love this Bitcoin chart because the technical analysis on it, is so good, and there are so many patterns right here. First of all, this is a Wyckoff right here. You see this, you get this leg up, and you get 2, 3, 4, 5, and then sell off. And where does it sell off to? Right where it started. Okay, so you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the sell off. This is Wyckoff. So what this means is this was distribution. So this was selling. So the market got really ecstatic here, and you had a bunch of retail coming in, and all the big wigs were selling. Okay, that's called distribution. They were handing them out. They were handing out their Bitcoins to whoever would buy them, and they bought up all of the interest, and it rolled over. Okay. So you move right next door, and what happens? A freaking head and shoulders. Okay? And then what happens? Not only do you get the head and shoulders, you get the breakdown, but then you get the retest. Okay? All right? And then you even get a reverse head and shoulders on the way back. Okay? Look, you even get one here. And it failed. All right? Because that's a good point to make too, because these patterns only count when they confirm, because you can actually spot the pattern, the exact right pattern, but play it too early before it actually breaks out. I mean, silver had a head and shoulders, or a reverse head and shoulders recently too, and it didn't play out, and it psyched a lot of people out because it did break with no volume. It came up, it looked like it was busting out, and it got a bunch of people. Silver turned around and reversed. So this is why you actually have to, as a trader, wait for these things to break out. But I mean, this Bitcoin chart has textbook patterns on it left and right, and the reason is because it's unregulated, and all of these big wigs with their algos are trading this stuff. I mean, this is technical analysis 101 to the core, to the T. I mean, I love it. So with that being said, all analysis indicates that we're going lower. This stuff is going a lot lower. And by the way, I don't hear enough people say it. I don't even know why more people don't understand this. But the price of Bitcoin is directly correlated to the Fed balance sheet. And when the Fed is getting set to raise interest rates and taper, I mean, there's no reason to think that Bitcoin's going to continue to go up. I mean, of course it's going to sell off. I mean, a lot of things are about to sell off. That's just what we're about to go through. So, and this is probably Bitcoin, if anything, if it's nothing, it's an indicator now of where we are in the market. Are we risk on or risk off? Okay, so that's one of the reasons I like to keep up with it too, even if I'm not in it or looking to be in it. You still got to chart this stuff, because Bitcoin really is a telltale indicator these days. And look, there's another one too. It double topped. Okay, it double topped. So you could take a picture of this and study it all day long and learn a lot. But I think that's it for today. We'll leave it alone there.